Thank you, Senator Brooks. Mr. Baker, in your testimony, you mentioned that Indian generic drug manufacturers using fake labs to pump out fake results to show a product was never tested. Can you talk us through what is supposed to be happening and what you found and how you found it?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, what is supposed to be happening is that the FDA publishes manufacturing standards and the Code of Federal Regulations that they're supposed to follow. It says when you test something, for example, you're supposed to report all the results that you generate. You can't just pick one or two that you like and then use that as the data to release the product. So that's what's supposed to happen. But what we found when we started the unannounced inspection pilot back in 2012 and 2013 is that those standards aren't being always followed. So some players are following those standards, but some aren't, and it's difficult because the ones that want to follow the rules oftentimes won't be able to win a contract to ship those products to the U.S. because they can't compete with the folks that aren't actually testing it. Because as already mentioned, it does cost a few more cents to do it right, but not a lot. But that makes a difference when the margins are so small.
Mr. Baker, in the book Bottle of Lies, it talks about how foreign companies plan guided tours, but you rejected that, instead wanted to go directly to the quality control labs. Can you talk about your experiences with foreign companies? Why did they start with the tour? Why did you decide to change things up and go directly to quality control instead? And how does that change the inspection process? Were you the only one doing that? Do other inspectors do similar things?
Yeah, I remember the moment that we decided to focus on the unannounced inspection pilot, and we were, I had been trained to do inspections here in the U.S., and we did those before I got deployed to New Delhi, and fraud happens here too, but it's much more limited, like one person or a small group. And I remember the moment being over there, and I was with a co-inspector, and I just remember like we looked at each other and we thought, actually, this is everybody's involved in this. It's not just a single person or a small group. It comes from the top down, and it was kind of like a aha moment. It's like, we got to do something about this. And so we went back and worked with the folks at the MC to develop ways where we could gain further insight into what's actually happening, and that involved showing up unannounced, which hadn't been done prior to that. And so we would arrive unannounced and we would skip the conference room presentation and go straight to the lab. And what we found, like for example, I can think of one that really just sticks out. It's one of the larger aseptically filling sites in the entire world. I mean, some of these are the size of a small town. And instead of going to the conference room, we went straight to the microbiology laboratory where they do the sterility testing. I mean, this is a life or death test. We walked in and there was only one microbiologist on staff. That was unusual, right? So we walked into the chambers where they're supposed to be testing all these products, and they were all there, but they were all unlabeled. And so we're like, well, where's the sample number on all these samples that you're supposed to be testing? All the paperwork was completed, no growth, it's sterile. But in reality, none of the products were getting tested. And once we sort of caught on that this was happening, that program expanded and continues to today. And again, like I mentioned, when those inspections are performed, they result in an ability to find those problems that are causing these adverse events. About 40% of the time we find issues, whereas in an unannounced inspection, where we show up and the dog and pony show continues, that's about a 5 to 10% chance of finding those problems because it's so much more difficult. We don't do announced inspections in the U.S. Why would you do that? You show up unannounced. You want to see what is the real quality of the product. So, this has shown that maybe the playing field isn't so level.
You mentioned that the bad players list is no secret, and these bad companies continue to avoid any significant consequences. That's telling me that the FDA knows which are the problem companies, but they aren't being inspected frequently enough or are still being allowed to import drugs. Does the FDA have a list of bad companies? What consequences should these companies be facing?
Yeah, that list exists. Yeah, I could just look into the database and see if I was going to fill a prescription, which provider I'd like to choose, and I'll do that pharmacy hopping to find it. And sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Well, what consequences should they?
Oh, yeah. So the consequences should be if you're caught breaking the law, as outlined in the regulations, you should be prevented from shipping product to
So they've got a list.
Yeah.
And there's no consequences.
very little consequences. So when the FDA takes action, what they'll do is they'll just shift those products to another facility in their network. And so it's this cat and mouse game, right? And so then this facility gets shut down. So now they're shipping out of this one. So then FDA goes over here. But by that time, this one's already back in the market, because they'll go back 2 years later. It'll sometimes be an announced inspection, and the game resets. It's just I go here, and so just enforcing the law and saying if you break the laws, you're not going to be allowed to participate could go a long way.
And then we put that in our bodies.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Ranking member.